Sidney Powell, licensed to lie. Sara Carter, investigative reporter. David Schoen, criminal defense attorney. Welcome all of you to the program. Sara, let's start with the news side of this. And is it true that all these things are going to be released or unredacted by the president?
I absolutely believe that it will. I've talked to, a number of sources here in Washington, D.C., on Capitol Hill and other U.S. officials. This is the direction that the White House will be taking, and I think it will be very soon, possibly as early as next week, Sean. I think it's vital right now. There is actually, and it's unbelievable for me to say these words, but it appears to be a war, even within both parties, to try to oust a duly elected president of the United States. The op-ed was just stunning. Yeah, I'm like you. What do we think about it? Who is this person? But, it's the same kind of tone, that we heard from John Brennan, the same tone we hear from James Clapper. It's this elitist, I know what's better. And in fact, if you read the op-ed, it's a joke. Because they don't really say anything, and they're, okay, our country's doing a lot better, but this guy, we got to keep him in check. It's all disinformation. It's lies to discredit President Trump with no factual basis. It's propaganda, and people have to understand this. This is propaganda. This is what people do when they try to divide a nation, when they try to sow chaos. I've seen this in other countries. I never thought we would see it here in the United States, but we're seeing it right here and now. And as Americans, we should not put up with this. Put your name on an op-ed. If you really feel that way about the president, put your name on an op-ed or get out of the White House. Get out of the administration. It is disingenuous, too, for the New York Times, which is supposed to be a staple of journalism, to run an opinion piece with nobody's name on it because nobody can challenge the opinion maker. So the New York Times should be ashamed of themselves. This is something that,
Well, they should be, but we know that that's impossible.
Yeah, well, we know that that's impossible, but we could be ashamed for them. We should be ashamed. And I think at this point in time, whether or not the president decides to give lie detector tests or not give lie detector tests, the important thing that you brought up, Sean, was from that column. It appears in that column, because we don't know who that person is, that there was an indirect or direct threat to the president. What did they mean by that? I've talked to a number of
One way or another.
One way or another. What does that mean? Well, if I'm the Secret Service, I want to know who that person is and what they meant by that. I think this should be a Secret Service investigation.
I agree with you.
As well as a Department of Justice investigation. The Secret Service needs to find out. They need to go to the New York Times. This is a threat against the president. We want to know who this person is.
What do you think, David Schoen?
Well, that's easy because I always agree with Sara Carter and you. But look, in this case, again, we come back to this. One way or another also means literally what it says. These folks will not stop at anything to undo the election results. And that really means one way or another. Listen, the president, again, was elected as a man of action. It's time to take action. When he acts, everyone says, well, you see, he embraces dictators or is totalitarian. That's not the case. Listen, as you just pointed out, the Obama administration probably had the most robust exercise of Article II power in the history of this nation between the use of executive orders and this prosecution of leakers. Can you imagine if President Trump did those things? He's perfectly entitled to, and it's time to do it now. It's as if Mr. Mueller and all of these other people have been elected to run our government, and they're just paralyzing the government. The president has to take decisive action, and the American people want that, need it, and are ready for it.
Well, I think so. Sidney Powell, you've exposed a lot. Your buddy Andrew Weissman is back in the news. If you notice, here we find out that Bruce Orr and Christopher Steele, 70 communications, text, emails, and even meetings, and apparently, in these notes that we now find, what does it say? Oh, geez, I hope I don't get caught. I don't want to get exposed. And also, I hope you're getting all my information over to your buddies at the special counsel. Did they get it? Then, of course, it's revealed that, they had contact with Andrew Weissman, which should be disturbing to everybody. And what does it mean that the firewalls hold? Sounds to me like you got a vast conspiracy underway, and we might have now put it all together as to what was the insurance policy with John Solomon's piece.
I think I've said for a long time, I think the insurance policy is the entire Russia collusion narrative that they put together going all the way through the appointment of Mueller as special counsel. For about 6 months now, I've had up a website, creepsonamission.com, where there is original artwork depicting Comey and Mueller and Weissman and McCabe, Stroke, Page, and Orr is handing off the dossier to Mueller. It comes from a collection of Comey's memos, Susan Rice's note to self, the history of Andrew Weissman. I think, frankly, he was brought in to target Manafort, and of course, we know that he held that meeting with the Associated Press.
Well, he said in November of 2016, M and keep going with M and Christopher Steele. So we know from the beginning they had their eyes on Manafort.
Oh, yeah. They targeted him early on, along with Carter Page and Papadopoulos. I think the president should also redact or have declassified the Page Stroke text messages. I think there'll be references to Weissman in those as well. And there are other messages I'm sure we haven't gotten. There was a huge classified section of the Inspector General's report.
And the 302s. Yeah, you're right. All right, we got to take a break. More with Sydney, David, and Sarah. We're going to carry them also into the next half hour.
On iHeartRadio.
Just get my hopes up. I usually get disappointed. What do you think?
I don't think we'll be disappointed. I consider some of the sources I've been speaking to very well versed on these documents.
So you're saying your sources are better than mine, is what you're saying?
No, not at all.
You're saying you're.
We may have, we may both be surprised. I think even more so than a 9 or 10. Sean, I think what the push for this was, they were so adamant. All of the congressional members that have seen these documents, the people that have been working on these investigations, they know when they look at them whether or not there were national security implications here, whether or not these documents should be made public. Remember, these are people that hold very highly classified security clearances. And what I've been told is that the DOJ was misleading the Trump administration, basically lying about the national security implications here, and they are trying to hide all of the malfeasance that happened within the investigation, protect the FBI, protect the DOJ at all costs, at the expense of the American people. So what I've been hearing is that if these documents are released next week, as we hope, by the president, if he declassifies them and allows Congress then to share them with the public, the answers will be given. This will blow this entire thing wide open, and the American people and the rest of the world, because this is not just about us. This is about what we represent and how this chaos and infighting is destroying our reputation overseas. So the whole world will know once and for all what the
let me ask this.
FBI and DOJ did.
Well, if Rod Rosenstein, this is the one that they want, I mean, he appointed Mueller. He's got the keys to the kingdom. He's very powerful right now. I guess he would weigh in on whether they subpoena the president or not. How much trouble is he in?
I think he's in big trouble. Like I said again,
because we saw this week that McCabe is, now there's a grand jury convened in his case. I got to think that everybody that signed off on this phony FISA warrant with the dossier is the information is in trouble.
Everyone, and they're all and you know what? And this is going to come out. And this is why the DOJ has been fighting so hard, because it's incredible to believe that Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein is overseeing all of this when he signed off on that fourth FISA and would have known everything about the 3 previous FISAs if he did his job. So
he's making decisions about what to release or not release, and some of it impacts him.
Absolutely. Total conflict of interest.
Stay right there. Sarah Carter, and I promise we'll get to David Schoen and Sidney Powell as we come back. We got an amazing Hannity blockbuster, including Rudy, tonight at 9 on Fox News.
Hannity is on right now.
All right, 25 till the top of the hour. 800-941-SEAN is our number on this Friday. And as we continue, Sarah Carter, investigative reporter, attorney David Schoen, author of License to Lie, Sidney Powell. Now that we know, Sidney, that a grand jury has been impaneled as it relates to Andrew McCabe, and now that we know that the dossier was the basis for all these FISA warrants, and that there were glaring omissions and a fraud was committed 4 times on FISA courts, I would imagine anybody that had anything to do with them, which would include McCabe and Comey and Sally Yates and Rod Rosenstein, that they're all probably in a heap of trouble. We just don't know because of grand jury secrecy. What do you think is likely going on?
Well, I hope they're in a lot of trouble. They certainly should be, but it's entirely possible the McCabe grand jury is looking simply at the offenses of his lying to the Inspector General and to FBI agents with respect to the Inspector General's interview.
I don't want to really stick up for McCabe here, but think about this for a second. Hillary Clinton obstructs justice in the single most egregious case that I've ever seen in my life. And, but we'll go after Flynn and we'll go after Papadopoulos and we'll go after, Manafort and Michael Cohen for, not being truthful on bank loan applications, whatever other crap they're involved in. But she always gets a pass. Every single time she gets a pass. Why?
Well, that's a whole nother investigation that needs to be done because we know it wasn't done right the first time. It was all just a part of the huge, massive cover-up that the FBI and DOJ have been engaging in to protect Hillary and then to go after President Trump. But the McCabe grand jury should at least be looking at indicting him for the false statements he made to the Inspector General that are documented in the Inspector General's report.
Yeah.
And then hopefully they'll proceed beyond that to other things and other people that were involved in the cover-up and the prosecution of President Trump and all people related to it.
David, Schoen, your take.
Rod Rosenstein.
Yeah.
It's also Dana Boente, who was acting attorney general at the time. He signed one of the FISA applications, and he's now general counsel at the FBI. That kind of quietly happened under the radar. And he was also the Eastern District of Virginia person that Page and Stroke referred to in their text messages.
Mm-hmm. I think the Page and Stroke text messages being unredacted is maybe a missing link that people haven't been talking about. David, your thoughts on all of it?
My take on this is that the entire set of activities going on with the Department of Justice is Orwellian. The idea that Rod Rosenstein is calling shots, he's in the middle of this conflicted activity, and that these other cases, McCabe, Comey, et cetera, are being relegated to sort of behind-the-scenes U.S. attorneys' offices doesn't give me a great deal of confidence. Quite frankly, and I don't mean this to pander, were it not for Sarah Carter and you and your show having an eye on everything that's going on with all of these things and bringing it out to the millions of listeners and viewers you have, it would still be going on undercover, under the cover of darkness.
Well, if the Democrats win, it's going to continue because they're going to stop all of it dead in its tracks.
That's right. My sense is, the Mueller report we see will be timed to come out before the midterms and be especially damning. For that reason, this is not an investigation. It's a political agenda. This is what we mean by one way or another. And the idea now, getting back to one of the early subjects, the president, might be answering written questions, may sit down for some questions, won't answer about this, won't answer about that. It unduly dignifies this so-called investigation. I don't believe that any properly thinking person in this country believes that Bob Mueller wants to sit down with the president or ask him written questions to really find out the information.
Well, Sarah has to run, but I want to ask her one last question. We don't hear the names of Baker and Rubicki and others that have come and gone. And, by all accounts I'm hearing is Bruce Orr apparently opened up more than anybody knew in his testimony of 7 hours last week. What about these guys? Are they in any legal jeopardy that would maybe cause them to sing, not compose, but sing and tell the truth?
Oh, absolutely. I think, we got to keep our eye out on James Baker. There was a lot of concern. Remember, he was the general counsel for the FBI, and they were seriously looking at him for leaking information to the media as well, and he would have been very close, obviously, to McCabe and to Comey. I think they do want to call back in some of the people they've already interviewed. That's Congress. They want to call back, Lisa Page. They want to interview Nellie Orr, Bruce Orr's wife. I think that's something we should be looking for in the future. Who are the people that they're going to be calling in and re-questioning based on the testimony given by Bruce Orr? Because a lot of it contradicts what people originally said to Congress, and they're going to want answers.
Yeah. All right, Sarah, we're going to see you tonight on TV. I know you have one of your daughter's recitals or whatever you got to run to. We appreciate your time on this Friday.
Oh, thank you so much, Sean. It's been great chatting with you.